Hey everybody, Alvin here from Mulligans and Hackers, and today on episode 61 of the Mulligans and Hackers podcast, we have Rhonda Pollard, digital creator, golf enthusiast, and we're going to get into that, competitor, because this is all in your Instagram profile, so this is where I'm getting this from, fashion
Okay,
lover, and health and wellness warrior. How you doing, Rhonda?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah,
I
you
really,
there.
really appreciate your time coming and jumping on and having a chat with us. Now, we have been chatting for a little while before we hit record here, so we're going to get right into this. So, I can relate to where you are because you picked up golf 3 years ago.
That's right. Yep.
So
July 24th.
we're just going into our fourth year as golf enthusiasts. So kind of go back and give us a how that whole golf thing came around for you and what it's kind of where it's kind of propelling you to now.
Yeah, it's actually a really funny story that had nothing to do with golf in the beginning. I had went through a pretty rough period of time and went through a really bad breakup. And I was hanging out with two of my really good friends. And the three of us rented a cabin in the Olympic Peninsula here in the Pacific Northwest. And we took all the memorabilia from those relationships that had recently ended and decided that we were going to have a ceremony like a lot of girlfriends do when they're trying to console each other after a really rough time. And we had this bright idea that we were going to take all these greeting cards and teddy bears and stuff like that. And we were going to build a Viking funeral raft, if you've seen that done.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to set it on fire and push it out into the lake and watch it all burn. And we were going to feel better because everything that, from our past was just going to be let gone. And we were going to be relieved of that pain and suffering and be able to move forward. So we go and we try to do this. And as we're setting the raft out onto the water, all of the like glitter and the sequins and the ribbons and things from the cards start polluting the lake. And my friends are huge sustainability people like I am, and we panicked. And so we started fishing all of this out. We put out the fire. We were able to drag the carcass of this, well, really, really badly performed funeral out. And we took it back to the cabin, let it dry out, and we burned it in the wood stove. And when we got done doing that, I looked at my friends and I was like, you know what? I don't feel better. Like, not at all, actually. I thought I would feel a lot better. And we had me and my friends are big bourbon, scotch, whiskey drinkers. And we had a couple bourbons. And, my friend Melissa had been playing golf and she'd been talking about it. And we were all in a male dominated industry, architecture, engineering, and construction in the commercial industry. And Melissa had picked up golf, trying to do some business networking because she had taken a new leadership role at her organization and was responsible for business development and kind of the evolution of their brand. And so she realized she needed to get out on the course and had been talking about it. And so I just looked at her and said, "Do you have your golf clubs in your car?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, I saw a driving range like at the little community we were staying at. Pretty sure there's a driving range like right up the street. We should just like hoof it up there with your clubs and go hit something. I feel like that would make me feel better." And so we walked up there and she let my friend Di and I, use our clubs and gave us a quick like little tutorial. And I think Melissa had been playing for like 2 years at the time. So, the three of us are just out there just hacking away, at a ball. But eventually, magically somehow I made really good contact with one of them and it made this sound and I had this feeling and it was an energy that went through my body that I can't explain. It was like being struck by lightning in a good way. And I felt better all of a sudden. And I started thinking about what Melissa was saying and being outside in nature and being on the range and realizing that like when you're in a really negative headspace that golf might be able to bring you some kind of reprieve from that. I wanted to know more and I was hooked like instantly. And
There's always that one shot that we've talked to so many people, and there's always that one shot that you hit it pure, and it's like, well, there it is. The rest of my life is dedicated to this game. We've heard it before.
yeah, And it was, as soon as I came back from that trip with them, we ended up doing a couple crazy things that I didn't think I physically could do. Like we summited this little miniature mountain while we were there. And that was an accident. That's a whole nother story. But we ended up like being able to do it. And when I got home, I'm like, okay, the feeling that I just felt both at the driving range and doing these things with my friends, while I need that more in my life. And Melissa actually had asked me on the way home, she said, I'm playing in a charity golf scramble for work on Saturday, and we'd like to have an all female team because there's never at these tournaments, there's like 144 people in the field. There's about 141 men and like the same 3 women show up. There might be 5 of us total, and the 3 of us rotate in and out of every tournament. And, we're tired of competing with each other for the closest to the pin and the longest drive stuff. We want more women to play. So will you come and play with me in this tournament? And I'm like, I have never touched a golf club until, just like yesterday. And she's like, that's fine. I'll bring clubs for you. Didn't you buy a golf outfit recently for a tournament that you volunteered at? And I was like, yeah, I did. She goes, just wear that. It'll be fine. You don't really need to know how to play. It's a scramble and we'll tell you everything you need to know. And I later that week get a second phone call from a client actually of a large healthcare organization. And she said, hey, I heard that you are playing golf now. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not. I'm going to play for the first time on Saturday. And she's like, well, I'm 8 months pregnant and I'm playing in another general contractors tournament on Friday. And I really need somebody to stand in for me. It'd mean a lot to me if you could take my place. And it's a really good opportunity for you. And I was like, wow, look at this. Like, I haven't actually even played golf yet. I've just, started to think about it and committed to one tournament. And all of a sudden, like all of these things, are starting to happen in my industry. It was really, that was like the proof that, golf was going to be important to me. And I played those 2 rounds back to back. And from that point on, like it was like game on. Like I started taking it really seriously, getting my own clubs,
So yeah, so now you're really early in the game. You're hooked. So now give us an idea of where that introduction to the game gets you to a point where now you're really hooked in the game and now you're getting involved in a lot more and you want more of it, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
just give us an idea now of where golf takes you now that you've had the introduction.
Yeah, I think like the point I made about like people finding out that I was willing to say yes when they would invite me, it just took off like wildfire. We were in the middle of, it was 2021. The commercial real estate industry has still never recovered from like the impacts of like what happened during COVID, where everybody went home and they decided not to come back into their physical workspace. And that's our primary business. I was in that business for 25 years up until this past Friday. And like the way we went about, like how I was very successful in my career, and the way that I went about like doing business had all of a sudden needed to change very rapidly. And I was like lost with not knowing exactly how to connect with people, or competing with trying to have like Zoom happy hours and Zoom lunches and Zoom coffees, which people were so burnt out on sitting behind a screen. I know we're doing that now, but I love that we have the ability to like not do this too when we don't want to. And you and I could actually even do this podcast in person if we decided to do so. But back then you didn't have that, and so I just decided that golf could be the answer to that. And there weren't a lot of women doing it in my space. It was still like, even though I'm part of this nonprofit group now, that we've only existed, we just had our 2nd year anniversary. And so there weren't a lot of women getting out there in the space, and there weren't a lot of men in our industry asking women to do things. But I realized really quickly, as soon as you started to put yourself out there and be willing to say yes and be willing to go out there, as intimidating as it is, and just like try, like people would start to ask you, and you would be able to maybe continue to do business. And I saw that happen. And I met a lot of people that I just told them, hey, look, I'm not good, but I'm fun and I have a positive attitude. And if you need somebody to come out and play, I'd love to play and, connect with you that way. And I also realized through that process that like you learn a lot about yourself and about other people when you play golf with them. You learn self. For me, I learned, I'm not a very patient person. And I also was not very kind to myself. Like I put myself to a very high standard and I wouldn't really do anything, especially physical in front of other people, that I wasn't naturally talented at doing. And golf is one of those things. I'm definitely not naturally talented at it. And it keeps me on my toes and it keeps humbling me, like we were talking about before this, but it also pushes me to do things beyond what I thought was possible, both mentally and physically, and then allows me to see people in a light where within a 4-hour period, you can tell if somebody cheats. You can tell if somebody's kind to other people. You can tell, how they look at the game and if they can be a good sport, even when, they're having an off day. Golf is just one of those things that like, since I've been doing it and experiencing it with other people, I've seen that it's just an opportunity to really be able to see people in a different light. And so that hooked me into it. And it became something that I knew very quickly was going to be a part of my life for at least the rest of it that I have, that I can be active and physical, which hopefully will be late into my 80s.
Yeah. So you picked it up. You're getting some opportunities to play now. So did you go and take lessons? Did you and give us an idea of now, because you're into the game, you want to get better at the game. So did you take lessons? Did you go and get your clubs fitted? Give us an idea of how you progressed into the sport now, because you've got the taste of the sport, but now you have to get into the sport, if that makes sense. So now, did you take lessons? Did you get your own clubs? Did you do a fitting? Take us through that process for you.
Yeah, I think from the end of July until about October, I tried to wing it on my own. I did go buy my own clubs in that time, which people advised me not to do, but I was getting rental clubs everywhere I was playing. And the rental clubs, unfortunately for women at most clubhouses, they're not the best. Every once in a while I would stumble across like, a rental pair of clubs that were decent, but for the most part, they're like a mismatch of like random things. And it was really frustrating for me because I was having a hard time understanding the correlation between your equipment and your game and like choices that you would make. And for me, I'm a very strategic thinker and I think very quickly. My brain operates at a ridiculous speed. It's actually unfortunate. It's like a strength and a weakness because I talk really fast, I think really fast. And so for me, golf and inconsistency and being able to start to make connections became like a really frustrating factor. So I only kind of limped around for about 3 months before, and not even, it was probably 2.5 before I decided to go all in. And I went and had a swing evaluation. And in that swing evaluation, I found out that the off the shelf set of clubs that I went and bought were a really poor experience at, a golf shop, because again, the gentlemen that worked there, they just weren't knowledgeable about, all of the equipment in the store. And they also seemed really intimidated and not knowing how to speak to a woman that was coming in, asking questions about things. And that experience for me was really frustrating too. And so I kept thinking, this isn't comfortable, but it can't be the way it is. Like, it has to be better than this somewhere. So I started like, just being bold and trying lots of different things, and got fitted actually at a couple different places, had a swing evaluation, dove in, found a swing coach that I connected with mentally. That was more important to me than actually anything else, was just like, how are we going to talk to each other? What's their attitude like about golf? How do they treat women? Because there's not a lot of female swing coaches out there yet. Unfortunately, it's growing, but and I ended up actually with a 29-year-old man who was mentally on the same level with me. We are still really, really, really good friends, just in the way we think about the game and the way that we think about how to encourage yourself. So I took 60 lessons with him over a 2-year period. And I went pretty intensely into golf. I also signed up for Indoor Simulator Pass because here in Seattle, the golf season's really short, and I am one of those. I will play in any weather. I mean, if you've seen my Instagram videos, I've played in torrential downpour weather and freezing cold, and even in December, like on the 28th of December, I was playing on the Oregon coast. I'm not one to shy away, but I don't play very well when I'm uncomfortable. I don't play very well, period. But when I'm uncomfortable, I really don't play well. And it gets even more frustrating. So having an indoor simulator pass or access to that here was really important. And I was doing 90 minutes of practice indoors, a lesson every single week. And I was playing golf constantly, like any work or networking event, any moment in my free time, that's what I was doing. You talked about playing 100 rounds, a year. I bet you I've averaged that as well. And I'll play, multiple days back to back, you name it. So I got really into it and did a lot of exploring around and found through that process, like, golf is an uncomfortable world for people that aren't exposed to that. And it's a really uncomfortable world for women. And I've seen it also for some of my friends that are minorities. And that has,
It was one of the questions that I said we were going to bring up about this, about uh, the game being intimidating for women, and especially new women getting involved in the game. I've asked a few other people in the past about this question, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that. The game being intimidating for women new to the game, because there's a lot in the game of golf etiquette and the equipment and just showing up to a golf course or going to a driving range. It can be a little overwhelming. So what do you think on that?
yeah, I think you're right. It's really overwhelming. And, it's not lost on me that golf's intimidating for anybody, men, women, doesn't matter. Like but I do believe that, just like the system that we live in, there's certain systems that are built that just have implicit bias toward, some and not others. And I do and have seen, with some of the country club rules, and, there's still golf courses here in Seattle, which a lot of people might find that really shocking, or in the Pacific Northwest, that are very man first, and they're outward about it. They're not hiding it. It's not shameful for them to have a men's only, bar, or to have, a place where women aren't even allowed to be, or children. And I've know of those places. I've been to a couple of those places, and the way that feels, it's unfortunate that in our world today, that barriers like that still exist. The entry to golf in general is really intimidating. I said no to golf for 22 years before I said yes. I was exposed to it when I first started in commercial real estate, meaning that, I was told, hey, you could do it, but there's a lot of equipment involved, and, it's really hard. And there's a lot of stuff that happens on the golf course that, if you just weren't, raised around that, which I wasn't, like, it's going to be a place where you might feel uncomfortable and out of place. And, in Kentucky, where I'm from, too, if you're not from an affluent family and you somehow make it into the business world, there's a stigma, and you try to hide where you came from. Like, your pedigree is important. And unfortunately, in the time frame that I grew up in the business world, that was the case. And I couldn't be authentically who I am. And so I was scared to death that if I said yes to something like going to a golf course or playing in a golf event, that I'd be found out. And so I'd rather just kind of like not do it at all and try to like make my inroads a different way than risking exposing myself. And that kind of followed through when I came out to Seattle as well. And, I don't know, it was really nice to finally have a friend that kind of like reached their arm out and said, hey, let me show you the way. And having the resources available and being part of an organization that's building those to provide them for women and anyone, actually. So we started out as a group, and our mission is to empower women to greater levels of influence through the game of golf in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. But as of recent, we've just in the last 12 months or so, we've tried to make it a point to make sure that everybody knows we're not just a group for women, although we started that way. We're a group for everybody. Anybody that's intimidated about getting into golf, we're a resource for you. And we want you to join, and we encourage you to join, because the women of our group aren't trying to just play golf with other women. We're not trying to create the same issue on different side of the fence. We want to just play golf with everyone. We want it to be an equitable experience and to be looked at that way and talked to that way, and have opportunities to do the same things at this and experience things, like at Augusta and otherwise, like men do. And we're not asking the men to leave either. We're saying we just want to join you as your equal. Are you willing to open up space for us? And so, yeah, I would say it is extraordinarily intimidating. And I feel very fortunate to have had a guide help me, and have met many other guides throughout my career, men and women. A lot of men, actually. I want to give shout out to men that have been there for me and really like reached back and said, hey, let me help you understand the game. Let me help you understand, why certain things are the way they are. Let me treat you like, an equal on the golf course, and treat you with respect, and not say things that are derogatory toward women. And there's been a lot of that. Like, most of the people I play with are that way, which is really exciting. But there is still quite a bit that does happen. And when it does happen, it's really unfortunate. It feels really crummy. So anyway, I'm very passionate about that topic. I'll pause. We can talk about other questions. Hopefully I answered that one for you, though.
Yeah, you bet. So now you've been playing the game now for 3 years. Just give us a little taste of the experiences that you've had in the sphere for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I feel like I've been, again, really, really fortunate, because when people found out that I was playing, and when people started hearing, why golf became important to me, and like once I started meeting other people that were trying to change the game of golf and make it more equitable, invitations and opportunities just started to present themselves that are hard for me to even wrap my brain around, being this new to the game. The very first tournament I ever played in ever was a pro-am, and I jokingly say to people, like, go big or go home. I didn't even play like an official tournament. I still haven't even played in a tournament where I just go enter and compete, on my own as a competitor. But I have played in a couple of different tournaments for charity and things like that, and ones that where your score does matter and you have to submit your handicap. But my first golf experience was a pro-am, and I got asked to do that by my friends at PXG Seattle, who have just been incredible. They've supported me through the beginning of my journey, and also our nonprofit. They're one of our biggest partners, and have been with us since the beginning, and everything from like opening up their facility in the wintertime when they're slower, to let the ladies that can't afford to have a simulator pass, come in and be able to hit some balls and play some games and have some fun. And they had their women executives, do a panel discussion with us where they talk about like being women forging their way in a male dominated industry, and like how they were able to leverage golf and just their life experiences and connections to be able to make that like a better experience for each other. They've just done so many things. So anyway, I got to play in a pro-am with them, which was really, really fun and very nerve-wracking. I was telling you in our conversation before this, I, was nauseous the entire drive there and had to pull over, and, because I was so sick. And, I got there, and even with I had a 41.3 handicap at the time, and the guys that I'm playing with, have single digit handicaps. Some of them are even in the plus category, and they've got a chance to win $10,000. And even they took me, they could have taken anybody with them. And I just felt really fortunate that I've ran into people like that have done that. And I had another industry friend that, in my industry, it's very common for men to take men on what we call boondoggles. And they go places like fishing trips, and they go to golf tournaments and sporting events. And women don't get asked to do those things, even when we're in a position of influence. And I had a friend, and he decided he was going to take the first female group to the Waste Management Open, and he was going to make sure it was a really comfortable experience for all of us. And he did. And so I got to go to the Waste Management Open, which I, thought was really,
What was that like?
That was, so we came in on Tuesday and we left on Friday afternoon, which I think is the way to do it if you're ever going to do it, and then watch, the Saturday, Sunday because it gets so crazy in there. I mean, it's a party, and I've been to the Boeing Classic many years. That's my favorite golf tournament. It's a senior PGA tournament. And I just recently got to go to Sahalee to watch the LPGA, the women's, actually the women's PGA, excuse me. And it's to see the differences in the way that those tournaments are. I think I feel very fortunate to have had the chance to do that. But Waste Management's what you hear, it's a party. It was fun to watch people kind of be like cheer people when they play golf though. Like I'm one of those people, I understand being quiet and I totally abide by the rules and respect that. But the silence is deafening for me. I would prefer people just be doing their own thing while I'm trying to play my game. It doesn't distract me when somebody's talking in my backswing, unless they're like yelling my name or something like that. But
That's a crazy. Again, I've only experienced it watching it on TV, and it can get a little just. And again, it's not the golf environment. We'll say the classic golf environment that golf, I guess, or people are trying to get away from that classic feel. But I'm a traditionalist. I like the traditions. Maybe to my detriment, but I do know that Waste Management draws a lot of people, and it's an event that people look at every year to either go to or to watch because of the craziness that goes on there, right?
yeah, for me, it was just exciting to get to see like the players were really accessible when we were there, earlier in the week. And so, and my friend Christina, her family is from Mexico, and there's not a lot of players, on the tour that are, but John Rahm, happened to be there. And, we just had we had access to them. We were able to talk to people, and they were really polite and really fun. And I think our friend who took us is in, his 60s, and he's like, hey, I've been here. I know that this could be an uncomfortable, like this is a crazy tournament, right? To take women to for the first time. He's like, but trust me. And we do trust him. And he made the experience really, nice. And we knew how to navigate our way around like all of the really crazy shenanigans. And I'm kind of I would call myself a golf moderate. I'm more of a moderate, I'm kind of in the middle. Like I like the tradition for sure. But then, there's some of the tradition, like I mentioned, where women weren't even allowed to be at Augusta, or join, or women can't go into certain places. Like I want all of that to go away. But I don't want golf to totally lose, its heritage and tradition, because I think that would be a shame. So, I won't get into it because I know it's super controversial, but a lot of people are like asking me recently. I have the fortune of the indoor golf facility that I do a lot of my training and things at. The actual caddy for Bryson is from there, Greg Bodine. And, somebody was like, how excited are you for them? Because he's a live guy. And I was like, I'm really excited for him. Like, and they're like, I can't be, because I was watching actually the ending of that when unfortunately Rory missed that 3-foot putt that he should have never missed. And I watched Bryson like really like earn every single, score that day, every point, because he was not hitting down the fairway. He was like off and had these ridiculous, crazy shots. And for him to be able to get within that close of Rory, I mean, it sucks when somebody loses because somebody misses a putt, but also I think Bryson really earned, his place and his win. And I was mentioning this to my friend who's a PGA person, and I was like, I have to give it to Bryson. He really earned it. He goes, I can't agree with you on this. I have to disagree with you. There's no way, but I
don't want to get into the whole golf because we don't talk a lot of pro golf on the podcast. But I don't like drama, and I don't do drama. And when the guys went and left for live, again, this is one of the things. This is going to be the first time that anybody hears me say this on the podcast. I do not begrudge them taking the money and going to play on live, because it's generational wealth. It looks after their families for generations to come. I do not begrudge them taking the money. I mean, let's be honest, Ron. If somebody came and said, Alvin, we'll give you $1 million for your podcast, but you just can never talk about this again. It'd be like, you have to change your podcast to talking about bottle caps or something. If you're going to give me $1 million, Yeah, I'm going to take it and I'll talk about bottle caps. You know what I mean? Because that looks after my family for a while, and you know what I mean? So I don't begrudge them that.
Yeah.
My issue with it, my issue with that whole live idea is they still want to play on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
Right? They want this is my take on it, Ron, and you can take it for what it is. They want their cake and eat it too. They wanted their separation from the PGA, but they still wanted to come back whenever they wanted. Well, geez, what a nice, comfortable position that is.
That is kind of, I guess what bothers me about it is the rules changed, right? They made rules and then they decided everybody agreed to them, and then they changed the rules, and like they suddenly and they negatively impacted a lot of people that were loyal. And I don't know, I feel really
I agree.
bad.
I don't think the PGA came out of this smelling like roses, right?
No.
Again,
No.
for my thing, it would have been like, okay, go play on the live. If you want to build this tour, that tour, and because I call it the money tour, and I call the PGA, the pros play on the PGA and the money guys play on live. That's kind of how I correlate that. But
Yeah.
it's like, go build your brand then. You have all these great top leaders in golf on this tour. Go build it. And if you can't build it, then maybe your idea was flawed. Right?
Yeah,
That's how I look at it.
I wish they could just get along, like we talked about earlier. Like
I'm a fighter. So if so
yeah, for
right,
me,
if somebody breaks away and goes and wants to do their own thing, then go do your own thing. I don't want to see you around here again. Just go do your own thing. Don't come back to me and go, well, I want to do this with you. Well, no, I'm not doing that with you. Go do your thing, right? So I'm that type of a fighter. So that's my personality, getting involved in a very, I don't know, click type of incident that happened here in golf. And truly, I don't watch a lot of other sports anymore because I don't like drama, and I don't like, again, money is, listening to these people talk about the money and the quantities of money, it turns me off. It really does. Because I look at when a PG, and this might be trivial, very trivial, but when a PGA guy wins like a tournament like today, you'll go and you'll see Thompson's name in social media, right? And it'll just be a picture of him, blah, blah, blah. When you see somebody win on the live, you'll see him with the trophy, and you'll see right underneath it, $4 million. I don't need to see that because I don't care about that, right? Take them, because I call it the money league, you're actually portraying it as the money league. And I'm, being from Canada, I grew up a hockey fan, and it got to a point where you start seeing all these ridiculous contracts getting handed out to players who, most of them don't live up to their expectations, and they get bought out or wherever. That gets boring, and I don't like it because, again, it's money I can't even fathom, and they're talking about it like this is what we do. Well,
yeah,
it turns me away from it. And again, I don't watch baseball much anymore. I've watched like 3 hockey games in the last year and a half, just because I'm turned off by that. Everybody talks about salary caps and what this guy's percentage of the salary cap is, and I'm not interested in that. Can we get back to just what the sport is? And I guess if golf went that route too and got back to what the sport is, and we could let that money league mantra that I put on it kind of die away, I might be able to buy into, because back when we first started this podcast, and I know we have a lot of new people that listen to this pod, but if you went back to season number 1, there's an episode somewhere in season number 1 where me and Chris are talking, and I actually really praised Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka early on in this whole journey that we started, because I always looked at young guys coming in. They were the guys that are going to take this sport on their backs, and they're going to carry it because that's the next generation.
yeah.
It wasn't too long after that, we're not on the podcast, but personally, I changed my mind on that big time. Just because of how they portrayed themselves on the golf course. It's like, guys, be pros. Just, you're professional athletes, be pros. And that's what I want them to portray. I don't care what they're like when they're home. Because again, I don't care about athletes and the amount of money that they make when they go home, what they're like. But when you're in the professional environment, be a pro and act that way, right? So I don't know. That was a little bit of a rant on the whole thing.
Okay.
So
I know the Live PGA thing is like a tough situation for a lot of people.
But you want to know something though, Rhonda? Since this whole thing happened, I stopped watching golf too. I stopped watching pro. I will watch the Masters every year until the day I die, because that tournament actually was kind of getting into professional golf. That was the tournament that got me in, and I guess it's the nostalgia of Augusta and the fact that I will never ever be able to play at Augusta, or maybe I won't even ever be at Augusta. That gives it a little bit of a fairy tale for me, so I like that.
Mhm.
So that's the tournament I will always watch. But like I joined a golf podcast golf pool this year, and really I'm just throwing names into the pool because I don't watch. I don't know who's doing what because I just stopped watching because of that type of drama. I just don't. I'm not into it.
Yeah, I'm not a big drama fan either. That's why I respect them both. And I think that, in the world of free agency and like, the way it works, it's like, do whatever you want to do. Like, I just want everybody to get along. But I do know, like, it's just been to watch it and be able to learn about it. Like, it's been for somebody new to golf that really hasn't been around it, like listening and learning. And, I'm obsessed with it, like we talked about. And so I watch all the shows, I've watched Full Swing, of course, all the seasons. And I do a lot of reading about it and I do watch golf. I really enjoy it, and I try to just like silence the things like, with anything, there's always stuff that, might not rub you the right way. But I think that I'm really proud of just it was fun to be able to watch for me and know what was happening and be able to kind of understand and be able to follow along. I don't really have a strong opinion about like either one about who was right or wrong or like where I think it should go. I just hope that moving forward, like they can find a way to coexist and everybody be happy. And like you said, the drama can kind of fizzle out so people can. I don't want it to lose its luster. It's been a sport that I think. It has a nostalgia, it has a lot of tradition, and I don't want to see any of that tarnished because of something silly like drama, like you're talking about. So,
Yeah, and again, for me, where I am now at my stage in life, for me, it's experiences, and I think still I would really enjoy going and watching like a professional golf event, whether it's LPGA, PGA Champions, or PGA event. Probably wouldn't go to watch a live event. Just going to throw that out there, but um,
I definitely would. Like,
you know,
I think I.
but for me, because we have, I think the LPGA was in Calgary not too long ago, and the
Yeah,
seniors, the PGA Champions have an event in Calgary, I think almost every year. So somewhere down the line, I'm going to get to one of those events and just experience that as well. And yeah,
yeah.
that's going to be something. Forget the drama, forget whatever, but that's an experience that I want.
I will tell you, watching the women play at Sahali just, a couple weeks ago, I've never had the experience of seeing women. I've been to several tournaments now, that are PGA or senior PGA, but to be able to go and watch the women play and the experience there, it was different, like, and it was really good. And I was impressed. There were a lot of people that came out to support the women this year. We had, I do think that the attention is growing for the women's PGA and the
I
LPGA.
agree.
I love that. I mean, Nelly, like everybody knows who Nelly is right
Hey,
now. I mean,
so we can't talk about Nelly without talking about Canadian Brooke Henderson, okay?
oh,
Because
Brooke
she is
Henderson.
she is she is the top Canadian golfer, period.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
she ranks number one. Men and women, put them all together for Canadian professional golfers. Brooke Henderson is the top, and
She's great.
the
I
fact that
love
her picture is not in every single clubhouse from the coast of BC to the east coast of Newfoundland, she should be everywhere, and everybody should know who Brooke Henderson is because she is a fantastic golfer. And I watch way more LPGA than I do PGA
yeah.
because I like watching the women play golf because they are spectacular at the sport.
Yeah, it was fun because I had a bunch of I play golf with a lot of men, as you can imagine, because I play golf a lot. And, I have a lot of girlfriends that play, but a lot of them have like responsibilities that I just don't have in life, and so their time's limited. They're in a phase of their life where, like you and I were talking earlier, you had a phase of your life where golf couldn't be a priority, as much, even if you wanted it to be, you had other things you had to do. And so I have a lot of women in my life that's the phase that they're in right now. And I'm really happy for that. But that puts me playing golf a lot alone or playing golf a lot with men. And a lot of people that are just in a different chapter of their life, whether that's their retired years or, their younger years where they just have the ability to be able to carve that out. And, I end up playing with a lot of guys, and a lot of them went to Sahali to watch, and they would have not done that probably, a year or two ago. And it was so fun to watch their Instagram stories and to hear how much fun they had and how they were so in awe of, just the athleticism and the talent and the technique. And, they were picking up a lot of things on the game. They also were, of course, wanting to see if they could catch Charlie taking a drag off his at some point. So it was really fun to see that.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
That actually went like totally viral there, not last
Yeah.
weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the
This
yeah,
is popular. I mean, I can't tell you how many of my friends that I ran into or others, and I'm like, "Who are you following? What are you doing? Are you following Lexi? Or are you following?" They're like, "Oh, I'm following Charlie." Like, everybody's trying to catch Charlie doing something. She's the John Daly of our,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
generation.
That's true. Yeah, that's definitely a adequate moniker for her. And and again, the personality, like when she's in front of a mic, she is nothing if not herself.
Yeah. She was rocking some great clothes too this tournament, which I really like. There's a lot of the women are kind of, branching out and they're trying to promote some of the other, not so known names. And they're, making sure that I don't know, fashion. I was looking back at, on 4th of July, I saw a bunch of like fashion photos from women on the golf course, and there's been a lot of good fashion over the years. It's just what I've noticed. It's just harder to find. You just have to know where to look. But I did see a lot of good stuff. But I did. It was very fun to go to a women's tournament. I think you'll enjoy that
Yeah,
experience.
I'm looking forward to something like that. Somewhere down the line in the not too distant future, yeah, I'm gonna have to, you know, take one of those in. But we have a deal with our crew that in the next few years, because being we like our history and now that we're into golf, we like golf history. That there's going to be a trip to a place called St. Andrews in the not so distant future. That our crew is going to be part of somewhere down the line, and our crew is going to get on and we're going to play the old course somewhere down
That's
the
amazing.
line.
It's
And
on my bucket list too. Oh,
you
oh yeah.
bet.
So you were asking me about experiences that I've had. I have to say, like, I'm not quite sure what happens after, our time on this earth is done. But if you get to pick a place like to spend, eternity, I'm going to pick Bandon Dunes, Oregon. Like I got to play there and it was unbelievable. I was playing there. It was just roughly a year ago. And it was one of the most incredible experiences that I think I've ever had in my life. And so that was really great. And then, in the Pacific Northwest, we're really fortunate that we have all of these bucket list golf courses. There's also Gamble Sands and Desert Canyon, and I've gotten to play both of those too. So it's fun. I like showing up at a really hard golf course like that, and I get a caddy, and they find out like I've been playing for less than 3 years, and that my handicap. I will happily report I'm down to 26. I've been working really, 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 really hard, especially on my short game. I fell into the trap when I first started playing, where I really wanted to just be able to crush my drive. I was like, I want to be the person that gets up on the tee box, and I want to have that baby just like fly. And I spent all of this time and energy trying to perfect that. And I got really good off the tee box, but still I was never getting any serious distance. I also wasn't really taking strength training and like the actual entire like exercise and fitness and all these other flexibility routines that are really important for you to go from, being able to hit at a certain, distance and speed to the next level. I'm doing that now, but it's taken me 3 years to finally say, okay, let's pause on trying to crush the drive. Let's do a little bit better course management. Let's really work on your short game, see if we can knock a few, strokes off the handicap. And that's worked out really well for me. And now I'm going back to completely breaking down my swing with my new swing coach. And I'm taking fitness and diet and all the training super serious. Like most people are like, are you trying to join the tour? Because the team of people that I have helping me right now, they all work with professional golfers. And I'm fortunate that I just happen to run into them here we're in Bellevue, just outside of Seattle, in Redmond. They happen to have 2 facilities, and they got involved with our nonprofit trying to help out. And they also have a nonprofit. And so through that, I was able to make connections with them and learn the importance of, golf fitness and how that's going to impact your game in the future. So we'll see. But if I can get maybe, the crushed drive into my game in the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Um,
Up on it, maybe.
Off the tee box is not a problem for me, but my approach game has definitely left me this year. But again, I don't take lessons. I just work on stuff. But we got to try something different here in the next little while to get Alvin back on track to at least enjoy going to the golf course again and not leaving the golf course after every 18 holes frustrated as hell because it's not working out. But yeah, that's another story.
I think you and I are kind of like you were talking about getting ready to flip kind of with your wife, right? On your phases of life. I think you and I are flipping here on our golf journey. Like you didn't take any lessons. You just got out and played a ton. I took so many lessons and did so much work indoors on a TrackMan with a mat. I'd go outdoors and it totally did not translate. There were some things obviously that I picked up, and I learned the fundamentals of a golf swing and technique and, things about the different irons, and it was kind of it's like being in, the classroom portion of golf, but until you get out there and you actually do it and you try things out and you understand how that's going to translate on a real golf course, that every single shot is unique and different. It really doesn't, I don't know. So I think I would have been better off if I would have taken a couple lessons, then went out and played a ton, and then came back and reported all the things, that I was doing, and then took a couple lessons, went out, played a ton, came back. Instead, I was just I didn't want to develop any bad habits. And I thought the only way to do that was to just go gangbusters with lessons. And I spent a ton of money doing it. I made a great friendship doing it, learned a lot, and I think have progressed quite significantly in a short amount of time. But I would encourage you to balance it more. And
yeah, because I think I might be at a stage now after this length of time where my game might be where it is, and without outside help, it's not going to change and it's not going to get any different. So I think I might have plateaued here. I've played some rounds really good, but now we're into a spot where it's mediocre at best and not where I want it to be, but I'm not quite sure how to get it back to where it was because again, taking lessons and being relatively new to the sport, I have no markers to go back to work out from. Now it's kind of like I'm just trying to pick needles out of haystacks here. What am I working on today? What's not working today? Or so yeah. Yeah. But again, I've got another 20, 25 years in this game that I've said it before that whatever the social media stuff is or is not, and what is or will be or won't be, I'm going to play golf until I can't.
Yeah, me too.
So that side of it, I'm going to have to look after, as we go on here, because I'm playing this game for the rest of my days because that's just where I am. I love the game and I want to get better at the game, but I'm at kind of a roadblock here right now.